Hello! Today we're talking about writing equations in slope-intercept form again. So part 2. So we know how to write it if they give us the slope and the y-intercept, because the slope is m and the y-intercept is b, and our equation is y equals mx plus b. So we know how to plug those two things in. The last video you watched also said, what if I have slope and a given point, xy? And we said, okay, we know we can plug in that slope m, and then whatever those x and y's are, we can also plug in to solve for b, and then we can go back and write it. So you may be asking, what is left? Like, what else do I need to know? Well, today we're going to talk about what happens when they don't give you a slope. And I'm not talking it's no slope. I'm talking no slope provided. But they do give you 2 points that are on the line. Okay? And we can, just by having 2 points that are on the line, we can write a formula, y equals mx plus b. Let me show you how. So let's say, for starters, they give us 3, 1, and 2, 4. Those are 2 points, x, y. Okay? So yesterday, we started with the slope. And if you're thinking about this and you're thinking back to when we first talked about slope, you remember that we have an equation for slope. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to label my points, x1, y1, x2, y2. That way I don't get confused when I'm plugging them in for the slope formula. And I'm going to say 2 minus 1, because, wow, I did get confused. Look at that. I'm going to now say 4 minus 1, and then 2 minus 3. And when I subtract, I get 3 over negative 1, which would be the same as negative 3. And once I have that my slope, m, is negative 3, I can go ahead and plug that into my formula, y equals mx plus b. So I would have y equals negative 3x plus b. And then I can pick either one of my 2 points. It doesn't matter which one because they're both on the line. So I'll pick my first one, and I'm going to plug that in for my x and y, just like I did yesterday. So I'll have 1 equals negative 3 times 3 plus b. 1 equals negative 9 plus b. If I add 9 to both sides, I get that b equals 10. And then I complete my formula by taking that and plugging that back into here so that I get y equals negative 3x plus 10. Okay, let's try another one. We'll say we have the points negative 4, negative 2, and negative 5, negative 6. Remember, the first thing you need to do is to find m. So go ahead and find m for me. Okay, so if you labeled your points, you're off to a good start. I would really like to see that on everyone's paper. So I get negative 6 minus a negative 2. Be careful with those negatives, and it's a minus a negative. And negative 5 minus a negative 4. Remember, 2 minus signs become a positive. So I really have negative 6 plus 2, which gives me negative 4. And negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. A negative 4 divided by a negative 1 is a positive 4. Then my second step is to plug that slope. So then I plug that slope into my y equals mx plus b. So I get y equals 4x plus b. And then pick either one of the 2 points up top and plug it in for y and x so that we find out what b is. And I'm going to let you find b on your own. I usually pick that first point. So I had negative 2 equals 4 times negative 4 plus b. So I had negative 2 equals negative 16 plus b. If I add 16 to both sides, I get b equal to 14. And then I plug that back in to my y equals mx plus b, and I write my full equation. So go ahead and write that full equation for me. Good, you should have y equals 4x plus 14. I'm going to let you try this third one completely on your own. The 2 points are negative 1 comma 12 and 4 comma negative 8. So go ahead and try that. So you should have gotten y equals negative 4x plus 8 for your final answer. Go ahead and take a look at my work if you did not, or if you got lost somewhere and you need to figure out what I did or where I went with that. The last thing I want to talk about is something that will be on the quiz coming up. So we'll say this is a kind of quiz kind of question. And what happens if I have 4x plus 3y equal 12? So you'll notice this is not in slope-intercept form, but it is in, because slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. But it is in standard form. And so if I wanted to transform this to slope-intercept form, which is this, I'm going to have to manipulate this equation a little bit. So I want my y's on one side and my mx plus b on the other. So my first thing is I'm going to subtract that 4x from both sides.